If I have it, I'll play it. Let me see if I have it.
Dear patriots and change agents, welcome to the Nigeria Leadership Series Town Hall, a proud subsidiary of the Africa Leadership Group, powered by the Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation. We're so glad to have you here for this weekly virtual town hall, where renowned thought leaders and engaged citizens come together for meaningful discussions that spark ideas, promote responsible leadership, and advance good governance for our beloved nation. Hosted by Pastor Ayodele, President and Founder, this series reflects his vision, which is to promote the emergence of real, ethical, and accountable leaders for good governance, not just in Nigeria, but across the continent. We are a non-religious,
Hello, Chama.
non-partisan,
Hi,
non-political
what's up?
organization powered by people just like
Good
you.
evening. Can you
Individuals whose
broadcast this
vision
NLP
align with
program today
ours
to
to drive
Grant Youth
sustainable
group
development
contact
across Africa.
08000
At the
so that they can
Tri-Africa
join?
Empowerment Foundation, we believe Nigeria's diversity, our cultures, ethnicities, and tribe is our greatest strength. Through initiatives like the Ito Olajide Godalo Real Mentorship Program, project management courses, and the Civic Awareness and Citizens Engagement Programs, our School of Leadership and Governance offers stellar opportunities in leadership training, capacity building, and social development. Under our community development initiative, projects like Feed a Neighbor, Feed a Nation have reached over 2,000 families facing food insecurity across 6 states. Our recently commissioned Hope Alive Fund is designed to empower and support entrepreneurship in underserved communities. In collaboration with civil society partners, we are building a coalition for participatory governance that works at the grassroots level to strengthen good governance and effective administration at the local government. We invite you to join us on this journey as we lay the bricks one at a time in building a resilient and formidable Africa. Please join us every Thursday at 5 p.m. West African time, live on Zoom. The meeting link is the same: simple, consistent, and open to all. Also, stay connected and inspired all week long and follow us on all our social media as posted here. Mark your calendars, invite a friend, and let's grow together. The Nigeria Leadership Series Town Hall, building leaders, celebrating unity, and shaping Africa's future. See you again next Thursday at 5 p.m. right here on Zoom. Dear patriots and change agents, welcome to the Nigeria Leadership Series Town Hall, a proud subsidiary of the Africa Leadership Group, powered by the Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation. We're so glad to have you here for this weekly virtual town hall, where renowned thought leaders and engaged citizens come together for meaningful discussions that spark ideas, promote responsible leadership, and advance good governance for our beloved nation. Hosted by Pastor Ayodele, President and Founder, this series reflects his vision, which is to promote the emergence of real, ethical, and accountable leaders for good governance, not just in Nigeria, but across the continent. We are a non-religious, non-partisan, non-political organization powered by people just like you, individuals whose vision align with ours to drive sustainable development across Africa.
Our own native land, no tribe and tongue.
Warm greetings and welcome to today's edition of the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series. I want to thank you all for coming and joining, and thank the Lord Almighty for bringing us to this new month of February. Isn't it amazing how the time has gone so fast? We finished with January. We're now in February, and before we know it, I'm sure March will be here, and then we'll be saying Merry Christmas again. Time really is moving so fast in this day and age. But we thank the God of life, the God of protection, the God of provision, who has kept all of us alive and who has kept us to this day. Today, we're looking at a very, very exciting and important topic, an overview of the Nigerian tax system. And we have two very, very great, wonderful, and notable speakers who will be here today to help us overview this Nigerian tax system. And there's been so much brouhaha about it. We've done an initial review before, but I think we want to do a slightly deeper dive in the 1 hour, 30 minutes that we have. And we'd like to really keep it to 1 hour, 30 minutes because our speakers today are very, very busy people. And we really want to be disciplined in our management of time. So, back office, please note this and let's try and keep it to exactly 1 hour, 30 minutes. And I know that you like to have your after party afterwards. Our first discussant today, who is going to be here on this platform, is somebody that I have known for many, many years, since my teenage days, my university days. Were in England together, playing around the whole place. We started accounting practice together in the same year, 1982, in Price Waterhouse, and I like to regard him as one of my brothers. Dr. Ayodele Hamzat Subair is a highly distinguished chartered accountant, tax expert, and an expert also in accounting and governance. He is renowned for his transformative advancement of Lagos State Tax Administration since his appointment as chairman of the Lagos State Inland Internal Revenue Service, LIRS. Under his visionary leadership, LIRS has recorded an impressive, very, very impressive 491% increase in revenue generated from 244 billion in 2016 to 1.443 trillion as at today. And this has been done under his watch and under his guardians. And I really want to congratulate him for being able to drive the revenue of a subnational into the trillions. So Lagos State budgets now in the trillions. He began his career with Pricewaterhouse. As I said, we began accounting careers almost at the same time in September 1982. And then he became managing partner of his family accounting practice, Hamzat Subair and Co. His father also was a great, great accountant in this Nigeria. So I'd like to welcome my brother, Dr. Ayodele Hamzat Subair, to the platform. Our next speaker or our next discussant is Dr. Elvis LaBode Obanor, a political commentator, social justice advocate, an analyst and entrepreneur. He is widely regarded for his unflinching critique of the democratic erosion and the moral failures of our political leadership. He's president and chief executive officer of Obanor Associates LLC that provide finance, tax, compliance, strategic advisory services to different organizations, including non-profit organizations in the United States. He has been involved in regulatory compliance, tax resolution, financial restructuring, organizational governance, and works with clients to navigate high challenges in their various fields. He's also the founder and president of the League of Social Justice, a non-profit organization dedicated to justice reform, civic education, youth, and accountability in Nigeria and across the African diaspora. Let me stop there so that I do not take too much of our time. the run of the show today is that we're going to set the context, and there's going to be a back office presentation for about 3 minutes, and then we're going to have our first guest, that is Mr. Subair, speak about what the government is really trying to achieve with the present tax reforms, the highlight of the tax reforms, what we should be looking out for. I know there's been a hue and cry. The government has been pulling forth, pulling back. People have been complaining here and there. And I think the reason is probably because they don't really understand what the government is trying to do. And I think communication should be a bit stronger. And then we're going to get Dr. Elvis Obanor also to give us his opinion on the present tax reform and what he thinks about it. And then there'll be a few questions for a few minutes, and then we get both of them to respond again. And we'll open up the platform at about 5:45 p.m. for questions and answers from the people on the platform. And we want to have a hard start at 6:30 p.m. today, West African time. Okay, so let us go to the back office and look at the video presentation very quickly. The video presentation very quickly of.
Just go ahead with the questions, preliminary questions.
Okay, I should go ahead with the questions. Okay, very good. In the meantime, those of us on the platform, it would be a good idea if we invite other people. If we invite other people so that they can join, and hopefully somebody's thinking and fears and anxieties concerning the new tax regime will be put to rest. If we are not able to cover in the time frame possible, we may have a part 2 at some stage, and I'm going to be asking our discussants today to please avail themselves if we need to have a part 2 of that discussion. So basically, I'd like to take on Dr. I say doctor, maybe Ayo, you're going to be a doctor after this. Chief Otumba Ayo Subair, I want him to please give us a very brief overview of the present tax reforms. I know he deals mainly with personal income tax, but I know that he'll have a good insight into the corporate aspects of the tax, the withholding tax issues, the capital gains tax issues, and also the VAT issues. A very great overview. And tell us what really are the issues and why are people so nervous and frightened about this tax, and what really is the government going to benefit. I am even a bit anxious that since they've seemed to have removed so many people out of the tax net, we might even be depreciating government revenue from tax. So, Ayo, please, over to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we are mindful of your time. God bless. You need to unmute yourself, I think. We can't hear you.
I am unmuted.
Okay, very good. We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so you're not just my brother and my pastor. You can prophesy always. I actually have an honorary doctorate degree, so you are not far from the truth if you refer to me as Dr. Subair. Although I generally tell people to address me as Mr., but please, as you please.
Okay, my doctor. I'm soon to be pastor.
Amen.
Amen and amen.
So I sent some slides in. I don't know if you're going to share the screen to make it easier for your guests.
Yeah. Back office, please. I hope you have the slides so that you can share the screen. Are these the slides?
Like I said, I can just start anyway.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I'd like to appreciate the Nigeria Leadership Series, the Africa Leadership Group, and all participants. I'd also like to welcome my co-discussant, Dr. Elvis LaBode. So Nigeria is at a clear fiscal inflection point. Economic pressures are rising, Citizens' expectations are increasing, and the fiscal space available to the government is becoming more constrained. In this context, how government funds itself is no longer a technical issue, but that of national concern. We hear every time that Nigeria is not making so much revenue. That's a statement of fact compared to the amount we need to drive the GDP and drive national growth. Taxation must therefore be seen not merely as revenue collection, but as a nation-building governance tool. It underpins service delivery, strengthens the social contract, and reinforces trust between the state and its citizens. There are basically 4 new tax laws. The Nigeria Tax Act 2025, which defines what is taxed, consolidates and harmonizes substantive tax laws, and repeals obsolete and overlapping provisions such that we just have one tax code right now. All the tax laws have been compressed into the Nigeria Tax Act. Then we have the Nigeria Tax Administration Act, which sets out how taxes are administered, including registration, filing, collection, enforcement, and dispute resolution. Then we have the Nigeria Revenue Service Act, which is the Establishment Act, establishing the Nigeria Revenue Service, which is the former FIRS. We also have the Joint Revenue Board Act, which is also an establishment act, strengthening intergovernmental coordination, tax harmonization, taxpayer identification, and taxpayer rights oversight. So what are these new laws really about? The new tax laws respond to long-standing structural weaknesses in Nigeria's revenue framework. For years, multiple taxes, fragmented legislation, and outdated provisions have unnecessary strain on compliant taxpayers, while leaving large segments of economic activity outside the tax net. So the reforms prioritize simplification. It attempts to simplify taxes, because one of the complaints is that our tax system is quite complex and very difficult to decipher. It also harmonizes a lot of the multiple taxes and brings fairness into the tax system. These tax laws make the rules clearer, reduce duplication, and ensure that economic activities are treated in a consistent manner. Importantly, there's a deliberate shift from enforcement-heavy taxation to a compliance-led, people-centered approach. Stronger administration, improved dispute resolution mechanisms, which is very important, and digitalization replace arbitrary enforcement with certainty and fairness. So the key takeaway is that the goal is to have a broader tax base, a fairer system, and clearer rules that work both for the government and for taxpayers. So what are the implications of the new tax laws? So I'll take it in different strata. I'll talk about how it affects citizens and workers. In terms of the workers, there's going to be better equity in taxation. The revised personal income tax bands ensure that very low income earners, those that are earning less than 800,000, and those that are collecting the minimum tax across the nation, they are tax exempt, 800,000 and below. Then there's also a new mandatory tax ID. Every citizen of Nigeria is now expected to have a tax ID. This tax ID is generated at the federal level by the Joint Revenue Board. So hitherto, every state had its own taxpayer ID. But eventually, we're just going to have one 13-digit ID that is going to identify every Nigerian that is involved in economic activity. Then we have an expanded PIT base. So right now, personal income tax is based on global income, including digital, foreign, and virtual income. This ensures equity. Then there's also the foreign sourced income, which is tax based on certain rules, including residency, with reliefs available through double treaty agreements where applicable. So anytime there's like when double taxation is triggered, there are certain mechanisms that have been put in to see that people are paying the right taxes and are not paying tax in two different jurisdictions simultaneously. So there's also a rent relief, which is capped at 20% of the annual gross income of staff, subject to a maximum of 500,000. There are clear penalties for non-compliance, and these penalties are quite severe and heavy. So the whole idea is to drive compliance. So if people try to comply with all the rules, then they do not fall foul of the law and therefore do not get sanctioned. Employers owned assets. There's what we call benefits in kind, and it's always been a controversial issue. So the new taxes state that benefits in kind will be valued at 5% of the cost of these assets. So the new tax laws also have expanded benefits in kind to include work tools and equipment like laptops, anything that enhances your job that is related to supplies from your employer. There's also capital gains tax, which is a tax that is applied really to the disposal of assets, such as land, buildings, shares, options, rights, intangible assets. Hitherto, there was a flat rate of 10% for capital gains tax. But right now, to prevent people leveraging on this type of tax, it's now 30% for corporate entities, and for the individuals, it's taxed at the effective personal income tax rate. Then estates of deceased individuals will be taxed based on the residency of the people involved. That's basically the beneficiaries. The law is not designed to seize funds arbitrarily. There's been a lot of talk. Lagos State actually issued some public notices, including that of the power of substitution. So the whole idea is that there is no money grabbing from anybody's account the way that it has gone through the social media. The government is very responsible, and what happens is if citizens owe taxes, there are a lot of processes that we go through, reconciliation, all sorts of adjudication happens. Then the citizens can actually go to tax appeal tribunal. They can go take it to high courts, and it can go all the way to Supreme Court. So it's assumed that due process has gone through, and at the end of the day, once there's a final pronouncement, at the very last result, and I'm sure tax authorities do not really want to trigger this power of substitution. So it could take as much as 4 or 5 years for the whole cycle to go through. So there's nothing to panic. Once citizens are aware of their tax responsibilities, many of them actually would like to comply. So there are also the residency rules, which are guided by domestic laws and, where applicable, international tax treaties. Whereas if we have a treaty like we have with the UK, you're not expected to pay tax in the UK and pay tax in Nigeria on the same taxable income. So there are certain residency rules that apply to prevent double taxation. Then there are tiebreakers that are introduced when double taxation is triggered. Certain factors that will be looked at include whether you have a permanent home in Nigeria, center of vital interest, habitual abode, your nationality, and then, of course, if there's a mutual agreement. So many of these factors are looked at in arriving at who is going to tax that specific income. So for businesses and employers, for instance, there's a zero COT, company's income tax for a lot of SMEs. Once your annual turnover is not more than 100 million, and your asset base does not exceed 250 million. The new laws allow zero payment of companies' income tax. So businesses below the VAT turnover threshold, which again is this 100 million, actually do not need to be VAT registered, and they don't need to file VAT returns every month. But there's a proviso. They all have to be tax registered, because annually they are expected to file a return of their turnover and so on and so forth. So note that you need to be tax registered, whether you're a small business or a large business. Also, for businesses and employers, they have to ensure that PAYE is accurately computed and respect the timelines and ensure that there's complete transparency and accountability. And you can achieve that through a proper digitized system. Then there are obligations on employers to remit on time and to avoid they will be penalized for late remittances. And then there are also a lot of employers in Lagos who actually deduct from the salaries of their staff, but do not remit. So this is not the proper thing to do. So let us desist from, it's a huge problem, not just a big problem. So at the end of the day, there are a lot of sanctions that are introduced now. So please let us avoid being sanctioned. Then there are higher thresholds for compensation for severance of service. There are raised tax exempt ceilings for qualifying terminal benefits and compensation for loss of office. It used to be 10 million before under the previous tax regime, but this has now been moved to 50 million. So 50 million and below will not be taxed. Then there's liberalized dispute resolution mechanisms. So there's a reformed tax appeal tribunal that has been put in place, and there's also the appointment of a tax ombudsman. So at the end of the day, where citizens disagree, businesses disagree totally with the computations of the tax authority, they can go to an independent person, the ombudsman, and it's a decentralized function. The ombudsman has zonal offices, so people can report to the ombudsman and be assured that this is an independent body that will review all the positions. Then employment incentives are there to encourage employers to employ more Nigerians. And then there's also the presumptive tax regime for the informal sector. In the informal sector, they don't keep proper books and records. So they are now being urged to try and, keep as much records as possible, because there's now put in place a presumptive tax regime based on the sectors, based on the intensity of the economic activity. They're just, different conditions attached. So the law has been passed, but the actual rates will come in a regulation subsequently. Also for businesses, chargeable income has now been expanded to include, not just for businesses and individuals. Chargeable income has been expanded to include virtual assets. Hitherto, cryptocurrencies were not brought into the purview of taxation, but now it's been recognized and will be subjected to taxes once the appropriate returns have been filed. So there's also the valuation of virtual assets. These are subject to the approval of the relevant tax authorities, and these are determined using prevailing market prices. Then we must also take into account the losses made from the disposal or from trading in these cryptocurrencies. So it's not just to tax the profit, but they will be allowed to set off losses that they make along the way. Also, it's very important that all businesses register all the contractors that they work with. They must have a tax identification number, and all businesses must be aware of this tax ID for reporting purposes. if you deal with contractors that are not registered, this could attract a fine of 5 million naira. So please, let's be warned. Then, where you have tax planning strategies, these have to be disclosed upfront, especially the ones that make you avoid taxation. Then we have banks and other financial institutions who are expected to submit quarterly returns to all the relevant tax authorities. The threshold has been set at 25 million and above for that. This is just to enrich the database from which taxpayers can work, tax administrations can work and profile taxpayers. So for the economy and for subnational governments, with the new laws tend to want to sustain economic growth through targeted incentives. And then these new laws bring a bit more predictability to revenue for effective planning and for budgeting purposes. Then there's also the intention to strengthen the capacity to finance infrastructural and social services by the various governments. You can see as a result of the tax reform and fiscal reform of the federal government, a lot of states are starting to get more money through the FAC allocations. So this is supposed to, continuously happen and improve the delivery of infrastructure and social services to members of the public. There's also reduced dependence on volatile and non-recurring revenue sources. These are basically, we were a mono economy before in terms of just the oil production, but the new tax reform encourages development of other areas, including agriculture, financial services, and just other sectors generally. It also enhances fiscal autonomy, accountability, and innovation at the subnational level. It's expected that all IRSs across the nation will get full autonomy. So there's no gainsaying that, if you look at the Lagos state system, for example, Lagos State obtained autonomy as far back as about 2006. And you can see the results in the revenue that is posted from year to year. Autonomy just simply means, financial and administrative autonomy of the IRSs so that they're a bit free of all the bureaucracy that is associated with the civil service. So let's talk about productivity, compliance, and trust. The new laws bring in some level of lower compliance costs to free up resources for productivity and growth. It encourages leveraging on technology. And of course, when technology is in place, both the taxpayers and the tax administration and the government will enjoy enhancement of revenue collection. Also, on the part of taxpayers, you don't have to go to any LRS office to do your work. Simply log into the e-tax platform. That way, it reduces a lot of your costs and also frees up time for you to be engaged in other types of businesses. Then we must say that trust is central to voluntary compliance. The reforms place greater emphasis on taxpayer education, engagement, and service delivery, such as this. There's a lot of advocacy that is going on by the different agencies and different organs so that people get enlightened and they get to know all the responsibilities that are expected from them in terms of tax compliance. And at the same time, it allows the governments plan properly for their service delivery. Now, it has some parts of enforcement, but at the end of the day, we don't really want to enforce. We just want to encourage voluntary compliance. So in terms of technology data and the Lagos experience, I already mentioned it. Lagos obtained autonomy during the regime of our revered president, who we regard as our tax guru. he had the foresight many years ago to try and make sure that there's financial independence at the subnational level. The first step, autonomy. Second step, leveraging on technology. So in Lagos State, for instance, we have an end-to-end tax administration solution in place. We don't even want people to interact with our staff anymore. You can just log into our system from the comfort of your homes, your bathroom, your kitchen, wherever you are, and interact, see everything, your tax history. You can create assessments, you can create payment references, you can actually make your payments through the platform, you can print your receipts, and ultimately print your tax clearance certificate. This is what technology brings. So the Lagos experience demonstrates that service-oriented administration, alternative dispute resolution, because we have all the tax appeal tribunals in place, we have reconciliation exercises, even that is now done through our platforms. You can upload your objections, you can upload all your supporting documents, and we can actually hold Zoom meetings for these reconciliation exercises. So these lessons are relevant not just for Lagos, but for Nigeria as a whole. So to close, for tax reform to succeed, taxes must translate into visible value and public trust. Public trust is very, very important. At the moment, there's a deficit of that. A lot of citizens do not really trust government. Government also does not trust, by the way. But we're trying to bridge that gap through all these programs like advocacy, enlightenment, technology, leveraging on technology. So with this sustained national dialogue and collective ownership of reform, because the citizens also must participate in these reform programs. There's what you call a social contract. When you pay your taxes, you're able to hold the governments accountable, and the governments on their own part are there to provide improved infrastructure and improved social services like healthcare, like building schools for education. But the government needs revenue to make this happen. So it pays to pay your tax. Thank you very much, Pastor Itwa, for giving me this opportunity. And then the discussion continues.
Thank you so much, my doctor and my pastor. Thank you for that simple, straightforward, eloquent presentation of our tax issues. We are going to quickly go into Dr. Obanor. We just want his opinion so that he can give us an opinion of the general public of the tax situation and how people are thinking, possibly what the fears are and the anxieties are. Then I will hand over to Pastor Sonny and Jumoke to now take us through the open session and the question and answer session before I come back, maybe at the end to close. So, Dr. Obanor, please give us your presentation very quickly. Let's try and wrap it in 10 minutes or so. And then Jumoke and Sonny, please, you then take over the question and answer session. And then we will then take it from there. Thank you so much, Ayo. Thank you. That was really brilliant. And even I, as a taxman, I am much more enlightened. I have some fears, though, that I don't know if government will hit the revenue targets. Also, how do we track the omnibudsman? Also, how do we ensure that government spends our tax money very well? So if you just note these questions when it comes to question time for you to try and address them. How do we ensure that government this thing? And then when you have tax disputes and all this issue of tax audit and all that, how do we handle that and what's the position on that? Well, those questions will wait until the question time so that we can be efficient and save on time. Dr. Obanor, please, let me hand over to you and then you take over from there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pastor Godalo, for the invite and for spearheading this wonderful discussion. And my special thanks to Dr. Subair for that very robust presentation of the tax law as it is currently drafted and frankly passed into law. Uh, my main concern here, my goal here is not to encourage any tax evasion from any members of the public, like Dr. Subair said. It is important that we comply to the law. But however, we hold the people serious education regarding the intricacies of this law. We need to provide them the tools necessary for them to navigate this very controversial, I must say, legislation that has been passed into law. The pushback has been immense from home and abroad, and it is quite in the right place, and it is justified pushback from the folks because they don't trust the government. You see, one thing is to have a very, I would say, comprehensive, exotic tax law in writing, but more importantly, another thing is to have people have the buy-in, have the legitimacy whereby to drive people to comply to those laws. I think that this is where the government is going to run into a brick wall because the resistance is immense. Because there are gaps in the implementation aspect of the law. Especially also there are gaps between the revenue that is collected and in comparison to services rendered by the government. The effective tax administration requires that it's fair, it's trustworthy, and it doesn't burden the people, it doesn't impoverish the people, it doesn't put unfair burden on them. And the way it is right now, one thing is to drag more people into the net, like the president stated. Another thing is to make sure that the revenue that are collected are used for the right purposes. Nigerians are paying taxes, all kinds of informal taxes in one way or the other. The skyrocketing inflation is taxes on the people. You buy something a few months ago, and you go back and buy the same thing, the price has gone up. That is a form of tax on the people. Uh, Even time wasted moving around because of the crumbling infrastructure that has caused that's a time wasted that's put immense burden on the taxpayer. For example, to travel from Lagos to if you work in Lagos Island and you live in the mainland, and you have to start work at 7:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. You have to get on the road by 4 a.m. to beat the traffic. That's time wasted. Those are tax on the people. And Nigerians are always also involved in providing basic services for themselves that the government should be providing. These are tax on the people. So the question most people are asking is why more taxes? Why pay more? For what? What are we paying these taxes for? If we cannot see the results of the money already collected, no doubt revenue is important, but when we don't see the result of the revenue already collected, can could be an issue with the people. That's where you start getting into the resistance from the people. So I'm hoping that myself, and Dr. Subaya can help interrogate this implication and go beyond just the test of the law and actually look at the impact of ordinary Nigerians. So I'm welcome to have this discussion with my beloved friend. Thank you, Pastor Igudalo, for having me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Obanor. My name is Pastor Sonny. I will be moderating the question and answer session along with my colleague Jumoke. I also want to thank Mr. Zubair, or Doctor now, if you like. As you said, you don't mind, at least you have an honorary PhD. I first of all want to say I appreciate the angle that Dr. Obanor brought it from, and we would like Mr. Subair, if he can, to throw more light. Government is quick to get very, very egghead, erudite people like yourself to come in and structure how taxes can be collected seamlessly. I mean, like you said, you can stay in the comfort of your house and go on to LRS and register and all those things. Now, collecting the tax is one side of the equation, like Dr. Obanor said, which is the credit side. Now, the other side of the equation is the debit side, the people that spend this money that are collected. Why aren't we recruiting intellectuals also on the other side to say, create systems where people can easily see the projects that are being implemented? People can simply log into it and see how much was allocated to that thing. All the money is collected in a transparent manner. It is displayed. Nobody is hiding anything. And say, Dr. Subair for Lagos collected 3 trillion. And that 3 trillion, this is how it was divided. Not that we see assembly members, by the way, I don't know if that's true, inserting things in the budget in Lagos that they want to buy houses for themselves in Abuja or buying SUVs every year. So I think the question really is, Nigerians are not averse to paying tax. And we are seeing that they are getting very smart people to make the tax collection more efficient. Why aren't we using that same energy to get smart people to make the tax usage very efficient? I leave Mr. Subair if he wants to take a shot at that before I go to the group chat for those that have questions, and I can see a few hands up.
Okay, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Pastor Sonny.
Yeah.
So we go back. We go back to the chicken and egg story.
Exactly.
So people don't have enough trust. Not everybody. Some people do not trust government. Some others trust. And we see it, there's voluntary compliance. There's a high level of voluntary compliance in Lagos State. And I'll sort of restrict a lot of my answers to the situation of Lagos State. We have an indefatigable governor at the helm of affairs, Governor Babajide Olushola Sanwo-Olu, and we can see what he's trying to do in Lagos. Lagos is practically a construction site. There is so much development of infrastructure, a lot of roads are being built, but you cannot take away the fact that Lagos is heavily congested and there is extreme pressure on the resources of Lagos State. We have arguably 24, 25 million people in Lagos, and for you to provide the optimal level of infrastructure and social services, you need a huge wallet to do that. This is where we talk about the social contract. Let the people make their own contributions, and there are all sorts of sayings. When you contribute, you are contributing to making a civil society, one that is free of all these problems that we talk about. We go to the UK, we go to the US, we marvel at the state of services that they have there, good roads, light, water, and all this. But don't forget that they have been there for a long time. Their system has evolved over a long time. And people pay as much as 50% of their earnings to the government as tax. So we are not asking for 50%. The top tax rate for this government is actually 25%. And the government very much is trying to make sure that people at the lower end of the pyramid do not carry tax burden. And by doing this, it is expecting that they will pay zero taxes if they're earning really less than 1 million. And there should be a bit more emphasis on the high net worth individuals. High net worth individuals are not very compliant in our country, which is why we have a very low tax to GDP ratio. So the new tax laws want to turn things around a little bit and make the HNIs at least try to comply by making sure that there are a lot of sanctions in place, and also to ensure that the tax authorities get more data with which they can profile these evading or tax avoiding individuals. I'll tell you that about 65% of our tax collection actually comes from pay as you earn, which means that people in employment are the ones who sustain this economy more than the billionaires, the entrepreneurs, the sole proprietors, and all these other people who are expected to do direct assessment. So we hope that there will be a change of heart. We hope that a lot of individuals will be more interested in paying their taxes, and then it gives them more bragging rights in terms of actually controlling how these taxes collected are utilized. But I can tell you in Lagos State, there's a high level of accountability. If you go to the Lagos State website, the AFS is actually published on an annual basis. And it's also, goes into the sectoral areas. Even you can discover who the contractors in Lagos State are for all the major projects. So there's a lot of transparency in Lagos State. I said I would stick to Lagos State. So I hope when it comes to question time, people will take into recognition. So at our own level, I am a tax collector. The proverbial Zacchaeus. Incidentally, the man at the helm of affairs in terms of tax collection is also, maybe he was destined to be the chairman of FIRS. So I don't know, I think I might just want to stop there. The last point I was making was that we are tax collectors. We are not the ones who sit down to design how these resources will be put into place. But a lot of people are interested in paying their taxes in Lagos because they can see where the money is going in Lagos State. It's a big, I get into conversations with a lot of people who tell me, oh, Mr. Subair, I like what I see in Lagos, and I have never registered. I want to come and register and start paying my taxes. It's a regular conversation I have. So I would like to encourage more people to adopt this attitude. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Obanor, do you want to say anything? I see you squinting.
No, I was just following what Dr. Subair was saying, and I think it makes sense coming from a tax collector's perspective. His goal is to collect taxes, not the one that implements what the money is being used for. So let's give him a break. Let's excuse him for that.
Okay.
I also think that we also need to, what we need to do, the takeaway here should be, we have to be able to merge policy and legitimacy. I believe that this tax law itself has a question of legitimacy. It is not, the people are not accepting it. They don't accept it. They are resistant to it. And because of that, I think this is where Dr. Subair may want to play some role, because you cannot effectively collect tax when you have people resisting it. And they find a way to skim through it. They find a way to avoid paying it, either through other crooked means. And then you now resort to enforcement, because as a tax collector, you have the power to also enforce. So now, how do you you take a big stick to enforce a tax law, which the people themselves don't understand? It is not that they have concern in the law because they don't see what the revenue collected are being used for. Now, just for example, I talk about Lagos State, and I want to focus on Lagos State. I mentioned the issue of time wasted moving around Lagos, which is a tax on folks. And we all know the issue of traffic in Lagos because of poor infrastructure. That's what I know. He said that the money are being used in Lagos judiciously, but we have problems in Lagos, and it is there for everyone to see. The private, I own a home in Lagos, and I know that I have to provide every basic services that government is supposed to provide, such as simple thing as trash collector, sinking borehole in my house, just providing water in Lagos. We have to provide our own water in Lagos, provide our own transportation, our own healthcare system, our own security in Lagos. So the question is, what is the Lagos state government providing for the citizen based on the taxes they've collected? Lagos State as a whole collect more taxes than any state in Nigeria. Have they used that money for the purposes of making life better for the citizens. So if they see that their life is improving based on that taxes, they will not be resistant to the taxes. So I think Subair should have that in mind. Also, implementation. I also see double taxation going on. I know you mentioned to avoid a situation where individuals are not subject to double taxation. We already have businesses taking advantage of the tax law, even as young as that law is today. I was looking at a bill yesterday from a restaurant in Lagos, and I have service tax, and I also have VAT. These things were stacked on top of each other. And consumers have no way of resisting this because it's easier to say it's the government. So how do you have a situation where there's a VAT tax on it and then you have another tax on it and it actually doubles? So in addition to paying for food, you have to pay tax for the food you consume. So that is troubling to folks. So I don't know how we're going to bridge that gap where we have a situation whereby people are paying tax and people are taking advantage of it. So that things we have to worry about.
Okay, Dr. Obanor, thank you very much. Maybe before Dr. Subair answer, let me take two questions from the platform because we are watchful of our time. There's somebody, Wembley Esquire, and then I don't know, Fumi Ajayi had her hand up, but I can't find it anymore. But if she wants, she can put it up again. Then Professor Charles Obi. So let's allow Wembley Esquire to unmute and ask his question. Go ahead, sir.
All right, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
By name, Sadiq Olaimi Karim from Ibadan, Oyo State. So first and foremost, I want to appreciate Dr. Obanor because he buttressed some of my points. And I will still stick to some of the points he has already mentioned. So we need more clarification on it. Because based on what Mr. Amzad said, he restricted himself to Lagos State. Whereas this tax of a thing is not only confined by the federal government to the Lagos State only, because we need to say it in a more elaborated way in order for every other state to have a lot of impact from this tax. And also for Lagos State, they have been taxed earlier, but now it is more or less like generalized tax from every individual in Lagos State that are earning above so particular amount. So how is it now going to be more implemented and to be more transparent than the initial tax that has been charged in the state? That's number one. Then number two, concerning the tax of a thing, like for every individual, they said for every money that you receive in your account, like they have to do it when being payment for service rendered and salaries. What is the maximum scale that?
Okay.
Sorry
Your
for
time
that.
is
Sorry for that.
your time is up actually. It's just giving you a sign, but land on your question quickly. Are you there? Wembley. Okay. It's all right. Maybe we'll take just the one question that you asked. Professor Charles Obi, allow Charles to unmute. Dr. Hamzat, I hope you are noting the questions.
Sorry, sir. Can I complete?
Okay,
Sorry,
quickly complete. Just land on your question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So, what is the maximum amount before every individual will be taxed, and what is the percentage also? Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you to the guest speakers today. One of the questions I have, I already put it on the chat window. So we have the NIN number, 11 digits. We have the BVN number, 11 digits. And now we are hearing a 13-digit number is coming. I mean, this is very confusing. I'm with Dr. Obanor. There was not enough time given to the population to prepare for this because this is a huge lift for our country. In most advanced countries, people don't like to pay taxes. And so there should have been some education to let people know that this is what is coming down the pike. Then I'm usually very uncomfortable, well, for the right reasons, when people start to compare Lagos with the rest of the country. Because Lagos is almost like a sprinter who had a head start. ahead of the competitors. We know how much was if you will, how much help Lagos got from government, parastatals, being the first headquarters of Nigeria. And all of that has played into what Lagos has become today. So it's not always it's not always like comparing apple with apple when we say Lagos versus the rest of the world. It would be nice if we hear, let's tell you what's going on in Borno State. Let's tell you what's going on in Sokoto State. Let's tell you what's going on in Edo State, for example. It would be good as our brother here. How much of this was baked into the $1 trillion projection that we're hearing about right now? That is supposed to be happening by 2030. And lastly, real quick, I don't know if you can discuss this or not, but was there any influence by the MOU signed with France to that contributed to this tax law that we are dealing with now? Thank you.
Okay, Oga Hamzat has said he will restrict himself to Lagos, but let me let him answer those two quickly, and then we'll take others. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Sorry. So some of the issues that my fellow discussant, Dr. Elvis, raised are very pertinent issues, and they are real issues. The issues that a lot of people have to provide or be their own local governments. Yeah. The government is very aware of this, and that is why it will continue to do things that will enhance development and provision of infrastructure. I'll move to our first question by Sadiq Olayemi Karim. Thank you very much for your positions. Now, you asked whether the new tax laws will be applied nationwide. I think the impact and the implementation is supposed to be nationwide. Yes, Lagos is there, but there are also many other states that are starting to adopt a good tax administration system. Now, you asked what the minimum amount is for tax exemption, something like that. So it's 800,000, but there's also like a rent relief that will come in. So it's just good to round it up at about 1 million. And you ask for the rate is 0%, totally tax exempt. So I think I've answered Sadiq's questions. Yeah. Then we have the ones from Professor Charles Obi. So there are a lot of inquiries on this issue of the TIN. So like I said during my presentation, hitherto all the states had taxpayer IDs. But we want to be more organized, and we want there to be a central source for generating the TIN numbers. So it's now the responsibility of the Joint Revenue Board. So this 13-digit TIN number is the only tax identification number. So in the past, a critical error was that all the taxpayer IDs were generated without unique identification. There was no biometrics. So everybody just simply registered. And at that point, all the states just wanted revenue, and they allowed the banks to be able to generate taxpayer IDs for anybody who had any payment to make. So the world has moved ahead in terms of biometrics. Fingerprinting is the basic minimum that we're using. So to create a unique identification and using biometrics, the national ID number really, really serves that purpose for us. And ultimately, you just really need to know your national number and your TIN. because these are going to be visible in almost all the economic activities and even social activities that you get involved in. All the invoices are going to carry tax identification numbers. So eventually, all the taxpayer IDs for all the states will be discontinued, and it will just be that tin that is applicable. For those of you who do businesses abroad, outside Nigeria, foreign banks, for instance, only recognize the tin. If you give them your state taxpayer identification number, they will reject it. They will even almost call you a 419er. That, where did you get this number from? Because it is only the 13-digit number that is now recognized internationally. So the other one is going to be phased out. So I hope that explains it a bit for Professor Charles. Also, somebody said something about taxpayers being confused. I think it was Dr. Elvis that said that there's a bit of resistance to the new tax laws. So there's a lot of resistance where there's resistance, mostly because people are not educating themselves. Most people that are bringing this resistance have never read the tax law. They have not even made any attempt. But what they do is listen to hearsay. And the hearsay is from people who also have not even read the tax law. So there are also a lot of mischief makers in our society. There is a deliberate attempt by tax evaders and people who want to avoid taxes. They are causing a lot of confusion, throwing all sorts of things into social media. We are in an era now where information is for free. Anybody can say anything they want at any point in time. So I would just like to advise people to try and enlighten themselves. We are doing a lot of work for education and enlightenment to make sure that people know their tax rights and people are carried along in all tax discussions. That is also why I have given my time, apart from Pastor Itoa being my brother and professional colleague, I take part in a lot of talk shows like this. And the whole idea is just to try and enlighten members of the public so that they know the right thing. Now, for January salaries, for instance, there's been a lot of shouting and dancing and rejoicing all over for the people in paid employment because of the lower tax rates for people earning significantly lower than 25 million. They have seen already the dividends of these new tax laws by getting bigger take-home pay. That's a big win for the government because the narrative is all over. There are also so many other benefits. The government is making a lot of noise about taxing the fruit and not the seed to try and bring people out of poverty. For instance, VAT, there's a lot of zero-rated services and goods now. And the ones that have been targeted are the ones which affect the people at the lower end of the pyramid the most. Education, health are the two largest beneficiaries, and also agriculture. The farmers, hitherto, many of the commodities and finished products, food finished products, were, eateries and all these places had to pay VAT. But all these ceilings have now been removed in a lot of the instances, and they now have what you call zero-rated, which means that they get the benefit of getting tax credit for their input VAT. Before, there was no tax credit in all these categories. But now, deliberately, a farmer in Sokoto, for instance, who has some commodities who are sold and becomes an input into somebody's adding more value, maybe manufacturing, food processing, that farmer in Sokoto is going to be able to get some tax credit for his effort. But to achieve that, he has to formalize his business, because if he hasn't formalized, registered, and the advice really has been for them to act in cooperatives. As cooperatives, they can get a lot of economies of large scale. So the tax reform laws are here to simplify, help, and pull a lot of people out of poverty. I think the last question or the last comment he made, not a question, two comments actually. He said Lagos has an advantage because it was a former federal capital of the nation. Yes, Lagos was a former capital of the nation, but if the wisdom of reforming fiscal program and tax program by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if that did not happen at the time it happened, I'm not sure Lagos will be in that serious position, vantage position. Lagos went electronic 20 years ago. So please, for a lot of people, we have this argument, oh, it's because it's Lagos, you have all the benefits. You guys don't have to sit down. You have to just sit in your office and watch the money come in. It doesn't happen that way. Nobody wants to pay tax, especially in Nigeria. Tax compliance is very low. But we go out there, advocate. We have simplified tax administration system for so long, and we listen to the people. Everybody in all my speeches and all the management speeches in LRS, we talk about the customer, taxpayer being king all the time. So all these policies are what has added to the success of Lagos. It's not just because it used to be a former capital. There is deliberate and intentional attempt by the various administrations of Lagos State to make sure that it brings in policies, people-centered policies for the benefit of the people. Then the last question had to do with the MOU with France. The MOU with France has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the tax reform program in Nigeria. LRS has nothing to do with that. So the effort really, again, there's been a lot of misinformation to members of the public. That joint venture agreement or memorandum of understanding is just for Nigeria to take benefit of all the globally improved standards that have been introduced into tax administration. France has a very, very efficient tax administration system. So there's nothing wrong with us going to borrow. I tell you, we get visits from all states of Nigeria. A lot of people have fashioned their tax administration system. After that, they just come and take the Lagos template. And every month, we have programs with sister IRSs across the state. So there's nothing wrong in learning, peer learning. So this MOU on France, I think, has just received too much attention, especially from mischief makers on social media. I think I've covered. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I see there are a lot of people. Please, I would ask that you try and restrict your questions to the 2 minutes. So top on the list now is Pastor Funke Awolowo. If we can unmute her, we have Afolabi Ajidaho and then Abubakar Yusuf. Abubakar Suleiman, I can see you. Is this the same Abubakar Suleiman? I see your hand up.
Sterling Bank.
Yes. Is this Abubakar Suleiman, Sterling Bank? Allow him to unmute. Allow Abubakar to unmute. Let's know whether he's the one.
I have asked him to unmute.
Okay. Maybe he's not. Okay, he has unmuted. Abubakar, go on.
This is Abubakar Suleiman.
Okay, go on with your question quickly. We give
Sir,
you that.
I work with the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Study, National Assembly, Abuja.
Okay.
So my question is, in all of this that the presenter said, because what they have been saying is what the government will be taking from people. What is the benefit of all of this from the citizens, at least from the advanced country that they are paying taxes? We've been seeing what the government are doing for people. In all of this, I've not seen where the government has said, with all the taxes that we have now introduced, that they now cover almost everybody. This is the new special services that the government is going to provide for you, of which you are now going to be seeing those services. Please.
All right. Thank you very much for your question. I think he gets that. Let me go to Pastor Funke Awolowo. Sorry, quickly.
Okay. Good evening, my in-law. I want to really applaud the department, the taxation department, for all that they're doing, because some of us get feedbacks, and for a long time we've heard that the taxation is now the new oil. They've been so prosperous in terms of giving, fiscal policy and all that. And for a long time as well, the people who work there did not feel it. But for the first time, they're saying that they're feeling all the effects of the prosperity is affecting even their own income. And they are actually partakers of what is happening, the improvement in the policies. So I want to say congratulations for that. Secondly, I hear you when you say the invisible taxation. That means the ones on the workers is more effective than the one placed on people with big businesses, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to escape, paying taxes. But I see the new improvement, and I want to suggest, because growing up in Ibadan, in the Western region, there were a lot of in reforms, and it came touching many local, local living styles, in terms of the way they did their advertisement. They were calling them, I think, Wole and taxation. It had so many names, and it crossed across the culture. And what happened is that people...
Okay, Ma. Your time has wind down, but just land on your point quickly.
Okay, people were more educated, they understood it, and that distrust between government and the governed was closed up, and all that. So I just want to find out, what's your own take, and what are you doing to make sure that the local people understand what you do? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I see quite a lot of hands, and Pastor had promised that we will end at 6:30. So I may just go through everybody quickly, 90 seconds, and please don't just pa. Why this is my question, and just go ahead. Cut all the. Go ahead, Folabi.
Good evening, everybody. Ayo, bro, what's up? Now, with regards to the first, your co-speaker, and the first in this batch of three people speaking, my question borders on what they were saying, that apart from being multiple taxed, I mean, you now go to restaurant, there's commercial tax, there's service tax, there's this tax, there's that tax. Apart from what are we saying? I have mentioned.
Oh, Folabi, what happened?
I don't know what happened.
Okay, go ahead.
They get the dividends of their taxes. There's infrastructure, their roads are good, there's transportation, not only within states, there's transportation nationwide. In America, you have Greyhound. In England, you have buses, you have trains. In Nigeria, what do we have? People will run away more and more from paying taxes if we're not seeing the benefits of what they're getting.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Ademola, thank you for keeping to time. Ademola, quickly. Mr. Subair, I hope you don't mind. Let's just take all at once. Then you can answer. You don't have to, some may be similar, and then maybe Dr. Obanor will come. Ademola,
please unmute. Please unmute them. Okay.
Ademola, please, just sharp and short, straight to the point.
This double taxation, he kind of glossed over it. I'm concerned about that. It's sort of overwhelming. That's my question.
Okay, double taxation. All right, thank you. Bola Oshibodu, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Mine is very simple. I'm an 80+ years woman.
Okay.
And I've been living in my house since 1974 in Ikoyi. I have never had a drop of water from the government. Will you now tell me that after all this tax, I will have water? there'll be security, there'll be everything provided. That is my own. I have no problem with paying tax. My problem is what do you use the money for? Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Engineer Lowe. Thank you for keeping it short and sharp, everyone. We can't take more hands, please. New people raising their hands. Okay, fine, no problem. Engineer Lowe. I don't know who Samsung is.
Faye, please go ahead and unmute them. I'm having issues with my laptop.
Please, we can't take more hands. If you are just raising your hands now, I only have 3 more people. We are sorry we can't take the extra hands that are coming up. We're very sorry. Okay, Engineer Lowe is not unmuting. What of the Samsung person? Okay.
Just ask them to unmute.
Abubakar Yusuf Abubakar. Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for having
please.
me.
Straight to the point. Go ahead, sir.
My question here is based on the issue of transparency. You see, the billionaires we have in Lagos alone are richer than the billionaires in South Africa. But we have reports that government don't collect tax from these billionaires and their properties. And if you look at it, Lagos here is the most congested city in Nigeria. You don't have accessible roads and what have you. So how is this new tax law going to be applied to these billionaires we have in Lagos? How is it going to be applicable? Like just the previous speaker said, she has been in Lagos for how many years and she didn't, up to today, she don't have water in her house. So how is it going to be applicable, please? Thank you.
All right, thank you. I take Faye lastly, and then I take Jumoke to wrap up everything. Faye, go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir.
The network. Did you hear me?
Yes. Your question was Mr.
Yeah, we heard you.
Abubakar.
All right.
Okay, so my question, I wouldn't say this is really a straight question, but I would want to appeal to Mr. Dr. Subair to speak to the people who implement what this tax revenue is being used for. Because he had clearly stated that that is not his purview, but I want to believe he can advise. The benefit of paying tax should be visible. Now, that is on one angle. I know projects are being done from majorly tax revenues or from revenues that the state or federal has generated. Now, the issue about that is how high these projects are budget. I mean, the kind of budgets that are placed on this project is too enormous. We cannot consider building a bridge for a road for.
Faye, you are talking about inflated projects.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
And
I think he gets that.
And that comes out of tax revenue that people have paid.
All right, we get that. So thank you very much, everyone. Jumoke, over to you. Ask your question and take over from there. I think you will respond to the ones you are able to respond to, and we'll also allow Dr. Obanor to maybe chip in before Pastor comes back. Jumoke, over to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Obanor, and thank you, Dr. Subair, for spending some time with us. I just want to follow along the lines of the tax implication and if there has been a study done on how it would impact the economy. I went out a couple of weeks ago and the tax on my food was almost 13%. And I'm not doing it again. I'm not going to go back out there and pay 10,000 naira or 12,000 naira on a 100,000 naira bill. And this is going to happen across the board. So has there been a study on how this is going to impact the economy? Because I see the domino effect of businesses closing down, and just the impact is going to be more on the middle class or lower class, if we even have that now. Young people starting off have seen decreases in their salary from the taxation, and that's a burden. So is there a way, I mean, has this study been done, and how do we ensure that it is mitigated? So that's my question. You're muted, sir.
So, Dr. Zubair, you
No,
can take...
nobody said I could talk. That's why I'm muted.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay,
You
sorry.
go ahead.
You can. You
Okay,
can
thank
address
you.
all the questions.
Okay.
The
No,
ones that you
not
can.
all, no. Just
Not
address the
all.
ones you can.
The
Okay.
key ones. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
okay,
I'll
maybe.
start with my sister. She's not just my sister-in-law, she's also my sister, Pastor Funke Olowo. I thank you for your comments. I see them more as comments. There was no real question there, but you recognize the work that we're doing in LRS and in Lagos State. So thank you for your comments. So Abubakar Suleiman from Abuja said, what's the benefit of taxation to citizens? So I think I said a lot of things about where the tax revenue goes. It goes towards development, provision of infrastructure, social services. In Lagos, there are many schools. There are a lot of people from outside Lagos who actually bring their children to come and take advantage of the free education that we have in Lagos. Also, there are a lot of grants and all sorts of incentives that are given to encourage people studying in Lagos. And then you must also realize that in Nigeria, we have a federal system of government. There's federal government, there are the states, and there are local governments. So try not to mix everything. The Nigeria Revenue Service, formerly FIRS, are the ones responsible for taxation of companies. At the state level, we only manage taxation of individuals and enterprises. And then you also have the third tier, which is the local government, which tails into the question from Olabi on multiple taxation. I think Ademola also spoke about multiple taxation, and somebody asked that they haven't seen any impact in terms of multiple taxation in many of the states. So the answer to that is that part of the objectives of the new tax laws is actually harmonization of taxes. So let's look at the scenario where you're trying, people always resist change. So before the new tax laws were passed, there was a lot of opposition from different quarters who, without even fully understanding the intentions of government, took their own decisions. And how did the government counter this? By simply putting them in rooms and explaining the intention, the objectives, and the implementation plan for the government. Many of the people who opposed it initially actually simmered down when they got better understanding of what was going to come. So in terms of multiple taxation, it was difficult to put everything into just one cake and place it before everybody. So it's phased. The introduction of these laws are actually phased out. So the main 4 reform acts are out there. Now there's focus on this issue of multiple taxation, and that's what we call the harmonization. So at the moment, all states are actually at various stages of domesticating the new harmonization laws, which will address multiple taxation. Everything has been narrowed down into single digits, 9 taxes. There are only going to be 9 taxes across all the federal, states, and local government authorities. Now, it's a very, very difficult task because we had at least 65 different types of taxes and levies previously. But with this thing put into 9 headings, many of the other headings are now going to be compressed into one. And the ultimate plan is that citizens get just one tax bill. And the tax bill will not be more than 9 headings, 9 layers. So right now, the domestication is happening in the various state houses of assembly because some of these levies are actually constitutional. So to really pass a proper harmonization law at this stage, there has to be constitutional amendment. Now, because there are 3 tiers of government, federal, state, and local governments, federal cannot legislate on constitutional issues that have been given to the local governments. So we are just doing it step by step. So once it's domesticated in all the state houses of assembly, as it is, about 15 states or so have already passed their own harmonization bills. Lagos State is still in the House of Assembly of Lagos State, and very shortly it will be passed. After all these have been passed, the next thing we look at is the rates. These will come through regulation. So please don't be in a hurry. Everything, the government cannot just dump all the reforms just at once on everybody. It's got to gradually come into play. But I see that definitely before the end of this year, the harmonization bills will be out, and this issue of multiple taxation is frontally going to be addressed. Also, somebody said, I think it was Folabi, that you go abroad, foreign services, you have so many facilities before you for transport, for light, and so on and so forth. So again, I will speak for Lagos. Lagos has a multimodal transportation system in place. The government has focused heavily on providing railways. It's out there. This is from tax money. We have the blue line, we have the red line. Very soon, more lines will come, the green line, and so on and so forth. So you can see where tax money is going. Also, in terms of transportation, there's a big tax transportation hub around Ikeja, Oshodi. We also have the bus system that we have in Lagos, which is also very successful. A lot of workers, you see them in queues at all the various bus stops waiting to take these buses. There's also the ferry system. There are a lot of jetties that have been developed. There are a lot of ferries that are working on the Lagos waterways. So these are some of the things that government is doing. There's also the huge Massey Hospital project that is ongoing right now. It's going to probably be one of the largest in terms of delivering of babies and so on and so forth across not just West Africa, probably across Africa. So these are a lot of projects that are in place right now. Very soon, the railway will be on the Lekki corridor, all the way to Ekpe. People will be able to take trains. So also, Mrs. I think it's Oshibogun. Excuse me if I got the name wrong, but I think that's what I heard. We thank you very much, ma'am. You said you believe in paying taxes and you will continue to pay taxes. Well, we will continue also to advocate for many other citizens of the state to join you in paying the taxes, because it's only when you pay the taxes that the government derives its revenue largely from taxes. Largely from taxes. And we've seen the effect of paying taxes all over the world. We can also domesticate and bring it here. In terms of a trust, you can see all the projects coming out. Governor Sanwo-Olu is out there on the streets inspecting projects almost all the time. So, like I said, this should be replicated across the whole nation. Many of the states across the nation are also really performing. Ogun State is also taking advantage of proximity to Lagos and is dishing out a lot of dividends of democracy across. Kaduna is doing well, Kano is doing well, Enugu in recent times under Governor Peter Mba has embarked on a lot of large projects. All this is coming from tax money. Even Gombe State has really accelerated with the good work of the chairman in Gombe State. They've accelerated their revenue generation, and a lot of projects definitely will come the way of the citizens. Abubakar spoke about transparency, that the billionaires don't pay taxes. There are so many billionaires in Lagos. You are very, very correct. A lot of the very, very wealthy individuals in Lagos, many of them do not pay taxes. Many of them pay taxes, but the taxes are very inadequate. So the tax reform laws are trying to address what is the starting point. The starting point will be filing your annual returns. In Nigeria, people do not file annual returns. It's been a big problem. We don't want to carry out tax administration through enforcement. We want country compliance. And I take this opportunity to appeal to all the employers of labor to please file their annual taxes. January to March of every year is for individuals to file the Form A, and It is from filing of taxes that the UK and US and South Africa are very successful. You would not dare not file your taxes in the US. There are heavy sanctions. People go to jail for failure to comply with the tax laws in many of those crimes. But in Nigeria, it's not so easy for us because of the type of judicial system we have in place. But the new tax laws have addressed a lot of issues. It's going to bring a lot of sanctions for citizens of Nigeria who do not file their annual return. Apart from that, the new tax laws have a provision for all financial institutions, not just the banks, insurance companies, securities companies, even for the virtual assets. All the people who deal in cryptocurrencies are expected to start to file tax return. And if they do not file the tax returns, there are a lot of sanctions. But on our own part, we will continue to appeal to people to file their taxes because that is the starting point of the conversation. You're supposed to voluntarily come in. How do we even, in a country that hasn't got good data, we're just really building up our databases. So it's not the fault of the tax authorities if they cannot collect from certain individuals. They are not sacred cows. I can assure you that once we get information on you, we will come after you if you do not voluntarily comply. So the government is very interested in ensuring equity in taxation, which is why a lot of incentives have been given at the lower level, while HNIs will now be properly looked at. Also, Faye spoke about the use of tax revenue. I think I've already spoken about that. We can see all the projects that we have in Lagos. There's judicious use of tax revenue. It can be better. I'll be the first to agree that. And somebody had made some comments that why don't we put a lot of smart people to be in charge of utilization of the revenues from taxation. That is being done across, not just in Lagos, across the nation. A lot of states have seen the benefit of increasing their IGR. Gone are the days where you'd sit down and Abuja would come and give you all the money you need in your state. States that are not improving their tax systems, stand not to gain from the benefits of improving these systems. And then lastly, Jumoke asked if there are studies that have been carried out to measure the impact of the new tax laws on society. So there was a lot of scenario analysis while the taxes, the new tax laws were being put together. A lot of scenarios were ran across, and it's going to be a continuous exercise. There is still a presidential implementation committee, tax implementation committee in place. And really, you can't run scenarios except you have a good database. So there's a lot of ongoing studies from different, even a lot of civil society organizations are actually starting to run things. You have all the organizations like Budget and companies like that who are actually doing a lot of studies. We, on our own part, we also have a lot of oversight, oversight functions over our own work also. The various houses of assembly do a lot of oversight, make sure that the government is bringing out a properly balanced budget, taking care of all the different sectors and not just concentrating in one sector only. So there's a lot of work and a lot of studies that are ongoing. We cannot start to measure the impact fully until after you have at least 1 year of data. But it's an ongoing exercise and it is well recognized. I think I've sort of touched on almost everybody.
Yes, thank you so much.
As quickly as I can.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to ask for your closing remark, one comment, but before I come back to you, I wanted Dr. Obanor to have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. We're really up on time about the diaspora and how this impacts them, if there's any impact to them at all. So if you can take that with your closing remark, and then we would close. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you, my sister. We cannot remove the impacts on the diaspora when it comes to this new tax regime. Most of us, even though we're here, but we do have a lot of investment, work, activities, indirect and informal taxes that affects us. So yes, the implementation does affect the diaspora, and also not only the administration also affects immensely. We talked about the double taxation, where Dr. Subair alluded to a few things. But here's the most important thing that this conversation will drive in. We've seen this kind of situation before, where we have aggressive tax system that ignores the socioeconomic context of Nigerians, whether they are home or wherever they are staying abroad. Now, and these individuals who are hardest hit are small folks, the artisans, the traders, and even the diaspora who do a lot of activities at home. So, and I also noticed that, I don't know if Dr. Subaya may have to look into it, that the implementation and enforcement is going to be critical. No, there's avenue to have strict enforcement, but then we have to ensure that we stay within the law, because I understand there are two versions of the law, which I don't know which one Subaya is working on, whether it's the one that was signed or the one that was passed by the legislator. The one that was passed by the legislator says that you cannot have enforcement without a judicial warrant. And then the one that was signed says that the taxman doesn't need a judicial warrant to be able to arrest and either seize assets or sell assets. So those are things that folks are concerned about. Now, the government, this is just an advice to buyer, and even the entire the states and within the federation, that if you're serious about rebuilding the confidence that the people have in the tax system, must be accountability. You know, we must move from sophisticated rhetoric, which is talking about the good of the tax law, to actually putting structures in place. They have the transparency. You know, it has to be operational. Tell us, we have to be able to trace where the money is going.
Yeah.
Tell us in plain language what the tax revenue is for and for what. What is it producing? Which road is fixed this quarter? Which hospital has been renovated this period? Which schools have been rehabilitated this period? At what cost? At what timeline? You got to put all of that in place, make it available to folks so that this resistance can be minimized as possible. Thank you, Jumoke.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant submission. And Mr. President had mentioned that this is probably a two-part series, because it's such an extensive topic and a very important one that 1.5 hours may not do it justice. So if we do have to do a part two, we'll come back to it and just really talk about the implications and how it impacts the economy and the people. So thank you. Dr. Subair, 30 seconds, parting words. What would you leave us with this evening before I bring Mr. President on to close?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for all the various remarks, especially that of my co-discussants. Doc, I like the way you put things. So my closing remarks center around people adopting these and embracing these tax laws. The tax laws have been put to help us develop into a proper civil society. The government needs revenue. The tax reform laws do not just tackle the issue of revenue. Even the presidential committee, you will notice, is fiscal and tax reforms. It's not just tax reforms. The fiscal side of things looks at all the things you have talked about, transparency, applying all the various rules that govern government accounting and accountability. Also, we have a very low tax to GDP ratio, and this is part of why the government has embarked on this reform. We need to try and move up a little bit to join our peers across Africa. We also would prefer voluntary compliance as opposed to enforcement. I remember you said something about enforcement also in terms, But we must also recognize that the issue of distraint has been in our laws forever. They're not new. Even the issue of the power of substitution, it's always been in our laws. Section 49 of CETA and Section 50 of Personal Income Tax Act, as amended, address the issue of substitution. But there's so much noise in social media about government grabbing money from accounts. All these powers the provisions have always been in our tax laws. So they are not new. Finally, I'd like to say that people get very emotional when it comes to political economy, rightly so, because nobody wants any hardship. And all governments across the nation are really interested in improving the lives of all citizens of Nigeria, not only Lagos. Every state has that objective. So let us encourage all our governments by joining in talk, not just political talk. We need to hold our leaders accountable. We need to know, for instance, government publishes how much is even going to all the local governments. The states are experiencing about 3 to 4 times what they used to get. So we need to start to ask questions in the right places. That is going to put pressure and help to improve transparency and accountability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm going to just take a couple of announcements and Mr. President will come up to close. Shout out to all our youths. I see a lot of them on this program, and I hope you guys continue to join every Thursday. We're building a Nigeria that works for you. So thank you for your participation. Very, very happy to see a lot of you here. And to all of you joining us for the first time, thank you for joining us this evening. Good to have you here. We meet here every Thursday, and we discuss very important issues around national development and moving the country forward. So the same Zoom link, just different topics and different speakers. And this has been a very interesting conversation, but one that probably needs to go on more and more. It probably needs a part 2 as well. But we'll see you next Thursday, same Zoom link. And then I put a form in the chat room. If you are interested in learning about Africa Leadership Group or Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation, what we do here, initiatives and how you can be engaged, please complete that form and we will definitely be in touch with you. Again, thank you to both of you. It was good to have you here, and I'm sure Mr. President will do the proper appreciation. Over to you, sir. Okay. You see, I don't know if he's having network issues. Is Mr. President here?
All right. Thank you very much, my brother. And thank you, Dr. Obanor, too, for your participation, for those very insightful requests and conversations and comments. Thank you very much, Ayo. I think you were really, in my opinion, you really clarified a lot of things for us in a very simple and effective way, and in a very positive point of view on behalf of the government. We do hope that the intentions of government are achievable and that we can get some improvement and efficiency in our tax system and in our tax collection and management. But more importantly, like somebody did say on the platform, in us, the simple citizens, seeing the results and the benefits and the social contract observance of the government, in making sure that our efforts at complying with tax is rewarded with us getting what we should get from government, and a government that's sensitive to the needs of its people. Thank you so much for coming. As I said, we most likely will have a part 2 because the questions kept coming and we need to dig them deep so that people can be reassured. And I will please get in touch with you, or we will get in touch with you to please get your consent to that, or assume the consent and then get a timing that's suitable for you. I want to thank everyone that has been on the platform. I want to thank you for coming in. I want to thank you for all your questions. I want to thank the back office for the excellent job that they keep doing. and wish you all the best of the rest of the evening and a wonderful, wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zubair. You owe me, you may not remember, in 2021, I was supposed to do some work with you. You didn't pick my call. I sent you messages over
Pastor
50
Sonny,
times.
1 second. Pastor Sonny, 1 second. Paye, can you stop the YouTube, please? Paye, please.